Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we like to, kind of get into the nitty-gritty of all sorts of topics. And today we're going to be talking about something that I know a lot of you are super interested in,
Yeah.
and that's choosing the right genre for your book if you want to, I guess, make sure it's a hit.
Make sure it sells.
Exactly, exactly. So to help us along the way, we've got a guide that we're going to be diving deep into, and that's How to Choose the Right Genre for Maximum Book Sales by, let me see, by Mohlala Media Publications.
Oh, yeah. They always have good stuff.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
They always know what they're talking about. So, whether you're actually writing a book right now or you just love reading and you're curious about how the whole publishing world works, this deep dive is definitely for you. Stick around.
Yeah, we're going to be getting into, not just the surface level stuff, not just like, oh, these genres are popular. We're going to be talking about why they're popular, what makes certain stories really connect with readers. I think that's the most interesting part.
For sure. And, one thing that the guide really emphasizes right off the bat is just how powerful genre is. Like, it's not just about being creative and expressing yourself. It's a business decision. You know what I mean?
Right. Think about it like this.
Okay.
Genre is like a filter, right? It helps readers find the books that they actually want to read. It's like if you go into a bookstore, each genre, it's like a different section, right?
Okay, yeah.
You know where to go for what you like. And the same thing goes for online. You're not going to, click on a romance novel if you're really looking for a thriller.
All right, right, right. That makes total sense. But there are so many genres out there. How do we even begin to choose the right one for our book?
Well, that's where the whole passion meets market demand thing comes in. That's what the guide talks about.
Okay, yeah, passion meets market demand. So finding that sweet spot between what you're actually excited to write about and what people actually want to read.
Exactly. It's got to be something that, feels authentic to you, that you're passionate about, but it's also got to be something that readers are looking for. So, for example, let's say you love history, but you also love a good mystery.
Okay.
You can write a historical mystery.
Right, right. Like blend those two together. That's cool. And it's so interesting to think about how like each genre really caters to a specific type of reader,
Oh, absolutely.
Like romance readers, they want that emotional connection, that happily ever after.
Yeah.
Thriller fans, they want the suspense, the twists and turns, the protagonist who outsmarts the bad guy.
Exactly. And, understanding what those readers are looking for is so important. Have you ever picked up a book and thought it was going to be one thing,
Oh, yeah.
and then it was totally different?
Like completely jarring.
Yeah, it's jarring. And you're like, wait, what is going on? You're disappointed, right?
Super disappointed.
That's what you want to avoid as an author. You don't want people to feel tricked.
Right. Especially if you want them to leave you a good review and tell their friends to read your book, right?
Exactly, exactly. Word of mouth is everything.
So the guide talks about some of the, I guess, the heavy hitters in the fiction world, like romance, obviously, fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, mystery, always super popular.
Those are like the big ones, yeah.
And then on the nonfiction side, there's self-help, memoir, business. Those seem to be doing really well right now.
Yeah, there's always an audience for those,
Sure, for sure. But even though it's good to know what's popular, you shouldn't just chase trends, right?
The guide really cautions against that.
Because trends, they come and go.
They come and go, yeah.
But your voice, your message, that's what's going to last. So how do we find that balance? Like, what are some of your favorite examples of authors who have been able to, combine their interests with what's in demand?
Oh, there are so many good examples. But one that comes to mind, right away, is The Martian by Andy Weir. It's such a great blend of science fiction and, survival adventure, It's so thrilling, but it also makes you think.
Oh, yeah, The Martian. That was such a good book.
It was so good.
And it was so successful, I think, because it tapped into, multiple reader interests. It wasn't just one thing.
Exactly.
And that actually gets me thinking, what are you most excited to write about? And how could you combine that with, elements of different genres to make something really unique? I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, share your ideas. We want to hear them.
Yeah. Now, another thing that the guide really dives into is the importance of knowing your audience. Really knowing them. And it's not just about knowing their age or where they live.
It's about getting inside their heads,
It's about, understanding what they like to read, what their anxieties are, what they're hoping for, what makes them tick,
all of that.
So it's not just about writing a good story.
Right.
It's about writing a good story for a specific group of people.
Absolutely. You got to know who you're writing for.
That makes a lot of sense.
And sometimes, you know, if you want to reach a wider audience, you might even think about blending genres. Like, what if
Uh-huh.
you love romance, but you also love mystery? Can you have both?
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, can you have your cake and eat it too?
So you're saying you can?
You absolutely can. There are so many examples of books that blend genres really well, like Where the Crawdads Sing. Have you read that one?
I haven't, no.
It's amazing. It's got mystery, it's got coming of age, it's got nature writing, it's got a little bit of everything. And it appealed to a lot of different readers because of that.
Wow, that's fascinating. So it's not about like, I don't know, boxing yourself in. It's about like finding ways to expand your reach while still staying true to what you want to say.
Yeah, exactly. You can be creative with it.
Okay, that's really cool.
It's like, you know, you're taking the best parts of different genres and you're weaving them together to create something that's even more interesting and more engaging for the reader.
I like that. It's like a tapestry or something.
Yeah.
All those threads coming together.
Exactly.
So speaking of reaching a wider audience, our guide, How to Choose the Right Genre for Maximum Book Sales, reminds us that there's this whole world of information out there, like on Amazon, for example. It's like we have this real-time look into what readers are actually into.
Oh, absolutely. Like this bestseller list, that's gold. And you can do keyword research, see what people are searching for, even see what's trending, you know, like seasonally, what's hot right now.
Yeah, it's like having this giant map that's pointing you right to literary gold. But, but, the guide also says, like, don't just chase trends blindly, right? What do you think about that? Have you ever, like, tried to follow a trend and then it just kind of fizzled out? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your experiences.
Oh, all the time. Trends are so fleeting, you know?
Yeah.
It's important to make sure that, like, whatever trend you're thinking about, it really fits with your voice and your message. You don't want to be inauthentic.
Right. It's got to be genuine.
Exactly. So, like, one thing that's been really popular lately is, like, all these books about financial independence and, like, mental health and personal development, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's because, like, we've had this economic uncertainty, right? And people are really focused on well-being. So those societal shifts, those have a huge impact on what people want to read.
Right. So it's about being aware of those trends, but not letting them totally dictate what you write. What other, like, real-world events or, I don't know, cultural shifts do you think are influencing readers' choices today?
Well, you know, all this anxiety about the future, I think that's a big one. Like dystopian fiction,
Oh, yeah.
climate fiction,
Yeah.
super popular right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they offer this space to explore, like, all these complex issues and, like, what if scenarios. It resonates with people who are worried about the same thing.
Right. It's like its genres are almost like a reflection of our anxieties and also like our hopes for the future, I guess, you know?
Exactly. It's tapping into those fundamental human desires and needs, the need for escape, the need for knowledge, the need for connection.
That makes sense.
And different genres just fulfill those needs in different ways. Like, think about fantasy and science fiction.
Oh, I love those.
They've been popular for so long. They offer the sense of wonder, of possibility, of worlds beyond our own.
It's like you can escape into a whole other dimension.
Exactly. And then for people who are looking for, like, personal growth, transformation, self-help books, memoirs,
Oh, yeah.
those provide guidance, inspiration. It's like having a mentor right there in your hands.
It's like having a wise friend, you know, giving you advice.
Exactly. And those genres, they tend to resonate really deeply with readers because they offer insights that can actually change your life.
That's powerful. So we've talked about understanding reader desires. We've talked about trends, blending genres. But how does genre actually influence, like, the structure of a story, you know, like the pacing?
Oh, that's huge. Think about a thriller, right?
Okay.
Fast-paced, short chapters, cliffhangers. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Yeah, you got to keep the reader hooked.
Exactly. That's what readers expect from a thriller. But then, like, a romance, that might have a slower build-up, you know, more time for character development, those emotional nuances.
Right. It's like one's a roller coaster and the other one's like a scenic train ride. They're both fun, but in totally different ways.
Exactly. And the guide talks about how important it is to, like, match those expectations. You don't want to write a thriller that feels like a romance. You know what I mean?
Right. It's got to feel right for the genre. Now, one thing that I thought was really interesting in the guide was this idea of, like, niching down.
Mm-hmm.
They say that targeting a smaller, more specific audience can actually lead to more success. How does that work?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Well, a little bit.
But the more specific you are, the more passionate your audience will be about your book. Like, imagine a book about fly fishing, but it's specifically for left-handed anglers.
Okay, very specific.
Right, very niche. But if you're a left-handed angler, that book is like everything you've ever wanted.
That's your Bible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about finding your tribe. Those readers who are like so into the specific topic. What do you think about that? Have you ever found a book that just felt like it was written just for you?
Oh, yeah, totally. And those are the books that stick with you,
Absolutely. They're the ones you remember.
Hmm.
And speaking of connecting with readers, the guide also talks about like the mood and the tone of different genres.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah. Like each genre has its own kind of emotional landscape.
Okay.
Romance tends to be hopeful, optimistic. Horror, you want to scare people, right? Dread, fear. Science fiction can be really thought-provoking, philosophical. Thrillers, you're going for suspense, tension. Right, right. Like readers have these expectations based on the genre. They're coming to it for a certain reason.
Exactly. So you got to deliver on that, but you also want to add your own unique twist,
Yeah.
That's what makes it special.
So it's about finding that balance between like meeting those expectations and also bringing your own creativity to it.
Exactly. Convention and innovation. Got to have both.
And speaking of innovation, one thing that the guide addresses, which I think a lot of authors worry about, is this idea of being pigeonholed. Like, if you write one genre, are you stuck there forever?
Right.
But the say you don't have to be.
No, not at all.
Mm.
As a writer, you grow. Your interests change. You might be drawn to new forms of storytelling.
Right.
And that's great. You should embrace that evolution. You can have a really diverse portfolio, Show people how versatile you are as a writer. Okay, so you're not limiting yourself. That's good to know. Welcome back to the deep dive. And in this final part, we're going to kind of bring all these insights together and hopefully help you make some good decisions about your own writing. And our guide here, How to Choose the Right Genre for Maximum Book Sales, encourages us to really see choosing a genre as a journey, not just like picking a destination and going.
Yeah, it's a process, right? You're discovering things about yourself as a writer and also about your potential readers as you go. It's all about experimenting, doing some research, and really getting a good grasp of like both the writing side of things and the market.
Yeah, for sure. And they suggest, like, starting with a really basic question, what kind of story do you want to tell? Like, is it going to be a love story, a big adventure, something that really makes people think about life, And once you kind of have a sense of that, then you can start, like, playing around with different genres and seeing which one just fits best, like the themes, the mood, even the pace of your story.
Totally. It's like trying on different clothes. You got to see what looks good on you, what feels right. You might think, oh, this is a romance. And then you're like, wait a minute, this would actually be a much better mystery.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It could totally transform the story. And remember, we talked about this earlier. You don't have to limit yourself to just one genre. You can mix and match, blend them together, create something totally new.
Yeah, as long as it feels like organic, Those different elements, they got to work together. What do you think about that? Have you ever read a book that blended genres really well? Tell us about it in the comments. I'm always curious about that kind of stuff.
Me too. Always looking for good recommendations. Now, the guide also really emphasizes doing your research. Like, once you've got a genre in mind, read a ton of books in that genre.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
See what's selling well, and try to figure out why those books are successful.
Yeah, it's like you're studying the playbook of a winning team. You got to learn from the best. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You want to know the rules of the game, but you also want to find ways to, like, make it your own.
Yeah, that's the key. Understand the conventions, but don't be afraid to break them, to bring something new to the table.
Love that. Now, here's a question that the guide asks that I think is really thought-provoking. Imagine your ideal reader. Like, who are they? What are they looking for in a book? What are their hopes and fears, their dreams? What kind of story would really grab them,
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
If you can put yourself in your reader's shoes, you can start to understand what they're looking for, what's going to resonate with them.
Right. It's about building that connection, that shared experience. And that's what ultimately leads to sales. It's about creating a story that people not only enjoy, but that really stays with them.
Yeah, something that makes them think, that makes them feel, that's the goal.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. Choosing a genre isn't just about marketing. It's about creativity. It's about finding the best possible way to share your story with the world and make sure it finds the right readers.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your passion, your story, and your reader all meet. That's where the magic
I
happens.
love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of book genres. Hopefully you found it helpful and inspiring. And now, go write some amazing stories. We can't wait to read them.